and welcome viewers and listeners to this week's deep dive for Gaming the System. You're joining me, Alex, and Matt, and we're going to talk all things Elden Ring, and we're going to try and keep it as spoiler-free as possible, depending obviously on how much of the game you've played. If you don't want any spoilers, then maybe go and play a bit of the game first, but we're just going to try and keep it as general as possible, and we're going to be very excited and talking about what we love about the game and all sorts of different things. So I guess the first thing we have to talk about is, well, I suppose I could talk about how I've never played any Soulsborne games before this one at all. I have no idea how it's roped me in, but I'm in and very much enjoying it, and I'm progressing steadily through. But I think, I didn't expect to enjoy it, but I am very much, definitely. And Matt, I think you are a more seasoned Soulsborne player than I have been previously. So if you want to fill in everyone with your history, then please do.
Yeah, so I've been following a YouTube channel called PlayStation for a very long time, and they talk constantly about it was mainly Bloodborne, and I dipped my toe in that and thought, no, it's not for me. And then I tried Dark Souls 3 because it was free, and I was like, not for me. And then I found Sekiro Shadows died twice, and that was a completely different format that they were trying out. Instead of this completely nebulous combat system, it was literally you're a samurai, a sword, and a prosthetic arm, and that absolutely captured me. And I played it all the way up to the final boss and then stopped because I couldn't beat him. And then 2 years later I came back to it and played all the way through again, beat the boss, and then played it about 5 times more all the way through to get all the different endings and try and get all the platinums. But then again, with the last boss of the last trophy to get, I stopped because I couldn't beat it and I was sick of it.
Oh.
But that was the perfect prologue to playing Elden Ring, because you really get a feel of the unique way that these games tell their story. They don't handhold you through any of it. They literally just throw you in and say, good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And leave you to fend for yourself. And feeling this world is basically just, you get that same sense of you're uncovering everything bit by bit, and that's partially one of the a unique thing I've never seen before is the map. It starts very small with just where you are, and then as you explore, it shows up bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until you basically, the world is only as big as what you can see at the start, and then as you explore, you go, holy shit, it's even bigger. And then it's that constant cycle of holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit, and it does that for the entire thing. So yeah, if I would recommend for anyone who's interested in these games, I think a lot of people are just diving straight into Elden Ring and going, I think because George R.R. Martin's involved, that opened it up to a staggeringly more diverse audience who will play
Definitely.
who will play through the challenge, because they know the story is how good From Software's game is. The stories have always been very esoteric. But by bringing such a well-known and skilled writer like George R.R. Martin, they've taken the incredible world building and a equally good world builder, universe builder, and have made this masterpiece.
I think the fact that it's open world has opened it up to a large amount of players as well. And the fact that if you get stuck or you don't want to fight a certain boss, you can literally run away. I cannot stress The skill of running away is one that I've honed very well in my time playing Elden Ring. I think the fact that you can just run around and uncover things, like you say, but I still literally every time where I find something, I'm like, I don't have any idea what this means, but it's cool. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's it.
yeah,
Covers everything.
yeah, pretty much, and the story as well. Like you have no idea what's going on, but it's cool. Literally, you're just like, okay then, well, fine, this is fun. We'll just carry on. Yeah, no, I think that sense of exploration is definitely, and having a horse as well that you can run around with definitely helps with the running away, which is always a good thing. It's funny you mentioned PlayStation Access because I'm a long time fan of theirs too, and I've always watched the other Soulsborne games but never been tempted to play them because I just felt like they'd be too hard and that I just wouldn't get anywhere with them because I just wouldn't be. I get too frustrated if up against the bosses. But with Elden Ring, most of them you can run away and prepare and get leveled up and come back and fight them whenever you're ready. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of sticking with it up to the point where I am, which is really nice as well. We've talked a little bit about bosses, but I think it would be good to hone in on what our favourite bosses are, if we can do that without being spoilery. I'll start with mine, I suppose, and it's one that most people have seen in trailers and like in the build up to the game, which is the very first big boss with a cutscene, and that's Marguerite, I think is how you pronounce it. Marguerite the Felled Omen is my favourite because he's just so dramatic and over the top, and everyone always quotes the line that he says when you first come in to the cutscene where he's like, "Fell Tarnished." It's just such good voice acting, and it's it's yeah a boss fight that a lot of people have a problem with. I certainly did. I found something to help. Don't know whether it be spoilery to mention. Did you use Marguerite's shackles when you fought Marguerite, Matt?
No, I didn't. You mentioned them like 3 weeks ago when we
Yes.
first talked about it, and I still haven't found them
No.
somehow.
Because I found them by happy chance slash reading guidance online, um, which is something I encourage everyone to do, is just read up about stuff because it's really handy. And that really helped, definitely. So basically just explore as much as you can before you do any fights would be my main tip, which we'll get onto more of later. But it definitely helps to explore for sure. But yeah, he's just so memorable. I think that's why he is my favourite boss. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, even after 120 hours,
Yeah.
he makes my top 3 list,
Mm.
because he's just he perfectly encapsulates what a Soulsborne fight is. It's a it's a thing where every single one of his attacks is designed to destroy you if you try and play it the way you would play any other game. And I take back what I said 3 weeks ago when I
Mm.
said that the dodge is functionally irrelevant. It is completely necessary
Mm.
to absolutely everything.
Yeah.
Even though I overpowered myself to 99 level strength so
Mm.
that I could block basically everything.
Wow.
Just the feeling of just dancing around his
It's,
massive
it's so huge
attacks.
with his hammer. This was my trophy for defeating him. Can't really see much. I'm in the bottom there with my prisoner helmet on, and I brought in a friend to help.
Is that Tom?
Uh, that is Tom, yes, Tom, question mark, and also had jellyfish as well because
Hmm.
you can't go in without spirit jellyfish. Can't see much from that still, but it kind of sums up the chaos of a boss battle. at the end, especially when they all sort of explode and it's all very exciting. So that was cool. In terms of what have you found most scary about Elden Ring? Because I came in before I'd played any of it. I was worried I was going to find it too scary. But I have been pleasantly surprised and not found it as scary as I thought it would be.
Yet.
Yes. Ooh,
Did you watch the trailer for
I
Elden
have
Ring?
seen some trailers, yes.
Have you
Yes.
seen the hands?
I have seen the hands,
They're
yes.
the
I'm
most
not looking forward to those.
they're the most fucked things
Yeah,
ever. Just absolute genius.
giant
The
hands.
most just no one's ever thought of that before. And my mum asked me how many fingers there are on each one, and I thought,
Mm,
oh, I don't actually know, because if there were 8 fingers, they don't have thumbs; they're just fused together like that. And
mm.
so I thought, if there can't be 8 fingers, because that would be soothing. You'd go, oh, that's familiar. There are 12
Ah,
fingers, and there's just
mhm,
and they, if you look at one of my photos, just pick
mhm.
a random one.
Sure. There we go.
Now, can you see anything
Oh
untoward?
my, yes. Oh, they're just like spiders.
It's
That's so horrible.
utterly,
You could,
utterly
because you could
horrifying.
go without noticing them. This is the thing. A lot of the stuff you can run by and not even know that it's there until you're up close, and then you're like, oh my god, it's actually a thing. And then you have to run away.
That's exactly what happened, because
Horrible.
the bastard thing is, underneath that archway
Mm,
is a fountain,
yes.
and on that fountain there are very, very small.
Oh,
They're
little
called
baby ones.
they're called
Yes.
finger creepers, which is
Oh,
horrific,
yeah.
and they're small. And I think, huh, they look a lot smaller than they were in the advert.
Yes.
And I walk up to them and go, I'm just going to kill them. And then these two hands go
Oh,
down on
yes.
top of me.
They're very good at tricks like that. It's the tricks, the jump scares that I find the scariest, I think. It's just when you're wandering around having a nice time and then someone comes up and backstabs you and you're like, oh god, suddenly ambush. That's
It's
the most
so
scary.
it's so just humiliating.
Mm,
Even after 120 hours, whenever you see a shiny thing, I still go, ooh, shiny. And it's just as I step on it, I realize, oh, fuck. And then something
yeah.
something
Yeah, they're
gets me.
they're very good at tricking you, I think. They tempt you in with stuff. So you have to be wary all the time about what's going to be around the corner.
Mm.
It's always tricky.
And you
Uh,
have a look at these the other
yes, I
photos
will.
I've
Let's
put
have a
up,
look.
because most of them. Can you see anything untoward there?
It looks like a screen within a screen, but I don't know if that's just your photo that you've taken.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, well, I mean, there's something slightly in the distance there
Mhm.
in front of you and your horse, and the sky's a bit red,
Mm.
I guess,
Okay. Can
and
you
there's sparks in the air.
do you see the white lump on the right hand side?
I do, yes.
That is a dragon,
Ah, yes.
and
I
it
have,
scared the shit out of me.
yes. I think I have not triggered my dragon in the place where I am yet, but I know that it's there. I'm not going to do it until I feel ready. But I'm probably going to die anyway, I expect, because you always die all the time. That's a very atmospheric, catacomby-esque photo from the look of it.
Can you see
Mm.
anything untoward in this one, given
Well,
what I
that's
said a
clearly a
moment
trap.
ago?
Yeah, that item there is clearly a trap, and there's always some text on the floor around when people leave. I don't tend to play with that on. I turn it off, which I know is probably not the wisest. Yeah.
They help so much.
Mm,
For
yeah.
example, if I'd read that one, I would have known what was going to attack me.
Uh,
Do you want to know what's going to attack me, or do
yeah,
you want
go
to
on.
wait until? Can you
No.
see those tiny little nubs that are surrounding
Yeah.
it? That is, if you turn the photo off for a sec.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That is a massive hand like that
Oh,
with the
and it's going to go
fingertips, and it
like
goes,
that.
"Fuck you!"
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh my
and they're
gosh.
bastards, because they start off. You think, oh, they're on the floor. Oh,
Yeah.
they're on the walls. Oh, they're under the ground as well.
Wow.
And they're just the
Wow.
most horrifying. They never stop. And the worst thing is they could also, if you're there's like you're
Mm,
on a cliff here, they can hang there. So you walk
that's
up to the
horrible.
cliff and they go,
No. Yeah, not good.
utter horror. That's the most is the but the most genius and horror. It's so simple.
Mm,
It's such a simple idea.
mm.
Just absolute genius.
It's in the snow. That's a good shield.
Mm.
I don't play with a shield yet because I'm playing with mostly magic, which is interesting in itself.
When we talk about our like
Mm.
what our builds we're using, I can
Oh
uh,
wow.
yeah, there's arrows. There are some
Yeah,
fucked
they're
arrows,
quite big, aren't they? I
mental
know
arrows.
what could have attacked you there because I've seen some similar stuff,
Mm.
which is cool. Oh, oh, oh! There's some more hands. You love taking pictures of the hands.
It was just because I
They're just
couldn't.
so
They
pretty.
blend in
They
the.
do. It looks like almost some tree roots or something. You know, I guess
Mm.
that's the point with the tree roots over on the other side. And these, I'll tell you about my pictures as well. I only took a couple actually. This was where I found a merchant who was playing an instrument, and I
Mm.
sat and listened to his music for like a good 10 minutes, and it was really pleasant because it was nighttime and the moon was out and the trees were looking really pretty. It was just very beautiful. So I did a couple of really nice screenshots of the sky, which is beautiful. If you take a moment from being attacked, it's actually a really beautiful game as well, which is
Mm.
cool. Mm. But yes, in terms of tips for new players or just players who are beginning their Elden Ring journey, what would your top tips be?
Hmm. Take your time.
Hmm.
Take your time.
Hmm.
It's unlike any other one of these games because it gives you no hint of where you're supposed to go. It just gives you a spectral steed and turns you loose. And so what most games do, they have bottleneck moments.
Mm.
So that's what Margit the Fell Omen is. He's a bottleneck boss that you can't get into Stormvale Castle until you beat him. But so what this world has that is completely different to the other ones is that you can explore so much of it
Hmm.
with before you have to fight anything. You can wander around and gather the story as you go around. And so that's number one. Take your time.
Hmm.
Go and absorb. That's what it's like. It's like ink, like being absorbed into paper. It just takes time, and you build up your general knowledge of everything. And then yeah, again, no rush, and that same
Mm.
thing applies to the combat. The
Yeah.
goal isn't to kill everything the first time. The goal is to learn how to kill everything,
Hmm.
and then you
Definitely.
can start cutting through things more easily. For example, Margit the Fell Omen. It takes a while to learn how he works.
Yeah.
Um, and then my final two, you can wander around and you can level up your flasks
Mm.
extremely quickly because you don't need to go through all these bottlenecks to beat a boss and then get a level up. You can go and find the churches of Marika, and that will give you the ones to increase the amount that is replenished. And then you can find the golden seeds by the little golden trees,
Hmm.
and that will give you more charges to your flask. My final tip is for leveling up massively when you're like a little bit of a way through the game. There is a place called the Deep Root Depths, and I can't remember how you get there. So just Google Deep Root Depths.
Mm.
You will come to near the end of that area, there is a site of grace which is next to a massive arena, which is terrifying. I can't remember what it's just. You'll know the arena when you see it, and just pause there. And on the root branches, all the way down to the floor, and by the entrance to the town, and in one of the churches, there are these sentinel things that breathe fire at you,
Mm,
and they give you 3,500 runes per
that's
kill.
quite a lot.
Right. And so, if you want to level up like a monster, you can go and you kill those 6 things over and over again.
Mm,
And that is how I leveled up massively for this. So that is
yeah.
my ultimate secret, is that deep root depths
Well, thank you, Matt. I shall
pathway.
write
So
that down.
bear that in mind.
Yes. I think I found a similar one, but they only give you 1,000 every time you kill all of them. So yeah, that's definitely a good tip for sure. My tip would be, if you're new to these games, especially like I am, would be to say it's okay to go and look up stuff on a wiki or go to
Absolutely.
YouTube.
Absolutely.
And one I can particularly recommend that I've been using, perhaps more than actually playing the game, is someone called Fextra Life. I think is how you pronounce it. It's like Extra Life, but with an F on the front. And he's very, very good. He's done like loads of different builds depending on what kind of class you want to play, what kind of style you want to play. And he explains what kind of weapons you need, where to find like different talismans and like all sorts of stuff, what kinds of weapons you need, how to use your ashes of war. There's all sorts of things, and he's really good at explaining all of them. Another thing I found out that I didn't know at the very beginning of the game, if you hold down on your pad, you can go straight to the first item in your, I think it's your pouch, which is usually your health, which is a really good tip. Same with holding up for any of your spells and incantations. You'll go to the first one in the list. So put your most used one at the top, I guess, for that one. Another one would be, like I said earlier, it's okay to run away and go and level up and go and explore a bit more. What else? What else is good? Something else. You can find memory slots really easily if you are looking to use a lot of magic. And one of those places, I'll give you this for free, is in the Weeping Peninsula, just next to the site of grace called the Castle Morn Ramparts. There's a windy tunnel, and you take that up to the top, and you'll find a tower guarded by some turtles. They're just not dangerous turtles, they're lovely turtles. But you must solve the puzzle there to gain entry to the tower, go all the way to the top, and you'll find a memory slot without really having to do anything at all. And that will give you an extra slot for a spell or incantation. So that would be one of my tips as well.
I went 100 hours before I used any magic.
Wow.
I didn't understand how it worked.
We're playing completely different games then.
Mm.
That's what's so cool as well, is that one person you can speak to would be playing a certain way. You could be playing a completely different way and have found completely different things that this other person absolutely had no idea about because it wasn't relevant to them and their play style, which is another interesting thing as well.
And also, it's the order in which people find things is going to be
Yeah,
completely different, because there's so
completely.
much you can get to. It's not like everyone experiences this bit first boss,
Mm,
next experience, next boss. You can literally explore probably half the map
yeah.
before you have to fight anything if you don't want
Mm,
to.
yeah. What would your hardest boss be, Matt?
It's later on in the game, so
Yeah.
Margie will always have a special place in my heart, because that's the one that everyone hits first and
Mm,
goes, "Oh, how do I do this?" And that's the one you study. One thing I regret at the start, it is true that it would be useful keeping a notepad,
mm,
because there's
yes.
no journal in it,
No.
like normal games have. and I completely agree with what you said. Don't be afraid to look things up on the internet, because, as with the messages that other players live, it's just enhancing the experience, and you don't have to feel like any shame for
No,
looking up
there is
things.
no shame.
Yeah.
No shame.
So that's a boss to overcome shame.
Mm,
Um, and later on, I won't tell you anything about it, but
okay.
there's one called a fire giant, and it's one of the most disgusting and interesting and difficult
Mm,
and satisfying bastards to fight.
yeah.
And I think it turns out it's completely optional. The amount
Ah,
of bosses that I fought that are completely
yeah.
optional that I didn't realize until the end. You go, oh, well, there's a reason this boss is ridiculously hard. It's because you're not
Mm,
meant to find it
yeah.
until you've actually finished the game.
Something that helps also if you're not keen on slogging through loads of bosses is if they're optional, I guess just look up what they drop, and if it's relevant to you, fight it. If not, you can leave it, probably. If you're doing if you want to save your boss fighting energies for bosses that are relevant to you, it's definitely a good tip as well. Although I
You,
suppose it does take away from the excitement of finding out what someone's dropped. If it's not relevant to you, though, it must be disappointing if you've spent like 10 hours trying to fight it. I
the
think,
thing that when it comes to another tip
yeah,
is you can learn a massive amount, the majority, well, a ton of information about the world in general through the items that you find,
mm,
because
yes.
every single item has a tiny little description
It's
of
really
it.
hard to find that, but yes, you can find it if you press to expand the description, and it will tell you.
Yeah, so that's why it's worth collecting everything. Even
Mm,
if so, that's I've collected everything, even if
how
I'm not
fair
going to
dues.
use it. Just I go, oh yeah, I can learn a tiny little thing and go, oh yeah, that explains a lot
Mm,
there. And also, there's if you get massively, you'll get to a point where you get really, really overpowered. There's just the first by nature. So there was a ton of Limgrave and Leona of the Lakes that I didn't explore
mm,
until I was like 70%,
well,
75% of the way through the game.
yeah.
And then when I came back and we're going through the dungeon and find these mini bosses, I could completely trash them. So don't worry about there being bosses that seem completely insurmountable, because you'll
Mm,
get to a point in the game where you go, oh yeah, do you remember that? Do you remember your little boss man down there in your little dungeon when you thrashed me 30 hours ago?
mm,
But it's time for some payback.
yeah. I think my hardest boss, quote unquote, that I've encountered so far in my 35 hours of play, level 27 person, is the Crucible Knight. I haven't beaten that boss yet. It's in one of the ever jails. You know, the kind of ones where you can't summon a friend to help you and you can't summon your. I don't think you can summon your spirits in those either because they're like closed arenas. So
Mm.
it's one you have to do just by yourself, which is hard because I enjoy having help. Um, but yeah, that's a nasty one. That is my hardest because I've tried, but just haven't even got close to beating Crucible Knight yet. But I hate him.
Mm.
You slowly build up a relationship with all these bosses. You're just like, I hate you, but I respect
Yeah.
you. But yeah, what's your proudest moment of your Elden Ring playthrough, Matt?
I think well, there have been a few times where those bastards spot those finger creepers.
Mm,
There have been times where I've found them. I've found
yeah,
them before they get me,
yes.
and just they're so sad. So that picture of the
Mm,
snowy where I
have a look
with
again.
the shield you commented on.
Oh yes.
There's where can you see them?
Oh, I can't see them now. Are they far?
See, there's a boulder
Yeah.
to the right of me. Just beyond that, can you see the little fingertips sticking out of the
Oh,
ground?
how sneaky.
They're
That is
bastards.
very sneaky.
And then you think you've got that one, but then in the shadow, in beyond that
Oh,
boulder,
yeah.
there's
Here.
another
Yeah.
one hiding,
Oh, my. That's
and
terrifying.
they put it there. That's the genius of the level design.
Mm,
They put that boulder in the middle, and so it channels you into that bit to give it enough space to go, and makes you go, aha! I've spotted that one, and then the other one
mm.
comes and gets you from the side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a perpetual bit. 'Cause after that, I just avoid them because the area, but
Mhm.
they still get me sometimes. Um, and then there's the fire giant. I'll just
Yeah.
say that was one of the most viscerally satisfying victories. Um, yeah,
Mm.
those are my.
Yeah.
There's the general one, and
Yeah.
then the specific one.
Cool. That's cool. I think for me, my proudest moment's probably really early on when I was completely unfamiliar with the game and I'm like, had no idea how I was going to do. Didn't expect to do very well. Because I first started out, actually, it was my other half who got a copy of Elden Ring, but it turned out he had the disc version and not the digital version, which is PS5 is the digital version. So I acquired the disc version on negotiation, and and while I was practicing on the digital version of which we had decided to just go ahead and get because otherwise you wouldn't be able to play it. I was having a go. We were kind of taking turns. Once one person died, the other person takes over, and I was playing as a bandit because that's the character that he chose. And found I was doing a lot of exploring and killing a lot of things and doing quite well. And I found some giant crabs on the beach, and then I killed all of them. And I was like, I am the crab beater. This is me. And I was just like, yes. Because it wasn't even like a big boss or anything, but I was just like, I have beaten something in the world and survived. And then, of course, I got my own version, and I think the proudest moment from that is probably the first boss I beat when you go through the smoke wall,
Mm.
once you have to go into an arena. And that was in Graveside Cave, which is in Limgrave pretty early on. It's in a cave full of wolves. Once you beat the wolves, you could only sneak through and only have to beat one wolf, but you get through and you have to face Beastman of something Azula. I forget. I wrote it down, but I can't read my writing. But he's one of the really difficult first optional bosses that you play. And when I finally beat him, it was really quite hilarious because I had a tiny bit of health, he had a tiny bit of health. We hit each other at the same time. I died, he died, came back in, and he died
And we
completely. I was
survive.
like, I'd
Yeah.
technically beaten him even though I just died. Went back in and got my reins. I was like, you're gone now. It's fine. I killed you, even though I died. So that's the first boss being defeated there was a good moment for me, definitely. Yeah.
From now on, you're Alex the Crab Beater Foster.
Mhm. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It was such a good moment. I was like, because they're pretty big, hefty
Oh
creatures. They're a
yeah,
bit
horrible.
horrible. I'm like, am I even going to deal with it? And then I managed to kill it, and I was like, yes. And then there were like two more, and I did it again, and I was like, yeah, I was unstoppable. And then it was probably only 5 minutes later, and like a wolf killed me. I was
Yeah,
like, oh,
that's one thing about these games that absolutely anything, no matter what level you are, can kill you in about 3 hits.
yeah, yeah. I was riding too high. I think I was
Yeah,
like,
you flew too close to the sun.
yeah, yeah. But
Have
what's
you
your? I was
have
going to talk
you
about your
those
weirdest.
crabs?
Yes.
Have you been surprised by one?
Where they hide in the sand.
Yeah,
Yes, I think one
yeah, those
time.
bastards. They go.
Yeah, not good. They're horrible. The baby
It's so
ones, they
weird how
just do
they.
nothing. They're like, yeah, they lure you in with the baby ones. You're like, this is easy. can kill you with one hit. And then the big ones come up and they're like, not so fast.
One thing that you will learn that it's a hard learned lesson that it keeps beating into you. If you see something and you think, oh, that seems small, there's always a bigger one.
A bigger one, yeah,
Always.
definitely. Oh dear. In terms of like some of the weirdest things I've seen in the game so far, it was so cool though. In I think it's in Weeping Peninsula, was this massive giant turtle building with a bell underneath. It looked like, I think I described it to you previously. It looked like it had a bell for an udder because it was just between its forelegs, and there was a building on top that was like its shell. And you walked along and the ground shakes and like you can hear this bell from like miles off. And you're like, what is this bell noise? I don't know. Then you find it and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I think it just, you can find the building when it's just in the ground, like sat down, but it actually rises up and walks around as a turtle, which is really cool. Another of the weirdest moments I came across while I was playing as a bandit in the very early times. Found a guy on a cliff with a torch, killed him, easy peasy, suddenly turns into a giant bear, and I die. That was quite unexpected, definitely. The giant bear was incredibly terrifying and killed me very quickly, which taught me not to just go and attack easy targets. It's a similar thing to the hands, I guess. They do lure you in with something that you think, oh, it's easy, I'll go and do this, and then you get trapped, and it's horrible. So yeah. Did you have any of your weird sightings or occurrences while you were playing?
So it took me Googling in like hour 90 to work out what that bear man actually was. And of course it's got a really interesting, cool reason. They don't just go, I'll let you find that out for yourself. If you want to know now.
Okay. I mean, I'm tempted to know now, but yes. It's not anything to do with the rune bear boss, is it? In the cave.
No, but they are just they're just all called rune bears. That it's actually completely different.
Yeah. All right then. Well, I may find that out later, I expect.
Cool. So yeah, that's one. So again, absolutely everything, no matter how weird and wonderful it is, there's always an interesting story behind it. It's never if there's small hands and then a big hand, there's a reason that they're in that place, because they sort of these things they sort of wander off into the wilderness, and you'll find if there's a small one, there's always a big one nearby. So remember that. There's so many bits that it's like you're in a minefield, and then you suddenly notice, oh shit, there's a minefield sign there, and you go, then you look around. Always beware. Weirdest moments. So the fire giant again. The fire giant is one of the most awesome things in this entire game. So I'm very excited for when you eventually actually find out what it was. Have you seen the jars?
No, I don't think I have.
Pots.
Oh wait, yeah, I've seen Alexander the Warrior Jar.
Yeah,
he's amazing. I found him pretty early. I was like, and then I had to explain to Tom because he hadn't found him. I was like, you need to find Alexander. So good. Are they the same thing or are they different?
They're the same thing. They're just they're just living pots, and they're called soul jars, like soldiers. They're fighting jars, and it's like I only that's what they were called once I'd beaten a boss and he gave me a jar token, and then that's where it goes, that's what they're called. So they don't tell you the names of half the
this
things.
is the thing. It's just like, wow. No, I'll have a look out for them as well. Yeah.
And there's a secret soul jar village.
Oh, I need to find it.
With
Yes.
all the little jars dancing and having a great time.
That sounds so cute.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, and there's one final thing, which it's so cool and creepy. There's the deepest, bottomest. I'll only give you very vague description to it. In the deepest depths of the deepest dungeon, scary crypt, hide away from everything.
Hmm.
There's a secret crypt underneath it,
Oh,
where you go
okay.
in and you see a dead man in like a
Oh,
frozen
yeah.
in this horrible death spasm, and you walk up and you go, ugh. And then you look around the corner and you see a room, and there are dozens of just twisted, contorted,
Oh,
dead bodies. And
yeah.
you walk through, and you see there's this massive pit of like
Oh no.
crypts going all the way
Wow.
down forever, and you have to hop way down, and there are still at every level there's more of these things, and then you get down to the bottom, and then you find this terrifying door,
Oh my
and
god.
behind that door is something that you go, oh.
Okay.
So, and I only found that because I've been Googling secrets to find
I'm gonna
before
put that
you
down on
start a
my
game.
list of places to avoid.
To avoid, yes. It's
Yeah.
hard to find. It's impossible to find unless you're looking for it
Yeah.
or get it entirely by accident. But that is one of the coolest, and
Mm.
I found that today after
Wow.
playing it all the way through, and it's still this thing that art mentions. You rather than it telling you a story from beginning to end, you just find chapters everywhere, and it's up to you to put them together in which order they
Mm.
are. And yeah, so everyone go and see if you can find out what I'm talking about with that
Mm.
scary dungeon.
Cool. For people that are curious to know, I am actually playing as a prisoner, which I think is fairly unusual.
Mm.
But I was tempted by it because I could imagine a really cool backstory in my head where I was like this noble person who'd been committed a crime of some kind and been wrongly imprisoned, so like a little bit of a rebel. And it was cool though because it kind of balances magic and melee, which I quite like the idea of being able to kind of switch between both because I wasn't sure how I wanted to play, so I thought maybe I'll just do a bit of both and see which I like best. So I went for prisoner because prisoner looked really cool. And I'm quite enjoying it so far. I've got a new staff. I've been using the S-stock, which is like a pointy sword slashy one that does piercing. It's not probably the most effective of swords, but you know it's good for stabbies. And the skill on it is really good, impaling frost, which is very good
Yeah.
one to have. And the staff's really good for like staying far away from things and not having to get close up, which I quite enjoy as well. Just killing things from afar and then going and collecting all the stuff after. And also magic's really cool. So that's why I'm playing as. What about you, Matt? I expect you're something quite different.
Yeah, so until I got to I I think it was again the fire giant, I got to that boss, and my blood, strength and endurance and vigor entirely based build failed me.
Mm.
And that was when I started having to learn about what magic was and what the ashes,
Mm.
and then it just opens up an entirely new way to play the game.
Yeah.
And so up until then, I was
Mm.
just hours worth of me using the initial. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just froze slightly. Yeah.
Yeah. So the halberd you get at the start, I was using
Yeah.
that and the same armor for such a long time,
Mm.
and it was only that because I'm such a instrument, it really depressed me. Thinking
Oh.
I got until then before I realized I worked out how you improve armaments,
Ah, yes.
how
See,
you
this
use.
is the thing. If you want to know how to improve stuff or upgrade stuff, definitely read about it because it's not clear at all.
Hmm.
It doesn't hold your hand. So definitely read up about it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
put simply, more tips. It's you need smithing stones,
Yes.
and there are level. For some reason, their creativity failed them coming up with names of
Yeah.
smithing stones, because it's just right. There are eight. There are eight
Yeah.
levels of each one, and it's just smithing stone 1, smithing stone 2,
Mm.
smithing stone 3.
I got some other type of smithing stone, but I'm not sure what it does.
The
Yes,
somber
that's the
smithing
one.
stone.
Yeah. I think
They
is it
are
for
for,
special weapons or?
they're for upgrading. They are for the legendary
Okay, yeah,
armaments,
cool.
and I believe. Oh no, yeah. So yes, legendary armaments for those ones, because I think they're rarer. And
Hmm.
then there is the glove warts that are used
Ah,
to. They're to upgrade spirits of ashes.
that's good. Yeah.
And the way to because going and finding these things out in the wilderness is laborious and boring. If you find Have you found any of the bell bearings?
Uh, no, you give them to the two people in the round table hold, don't you? I think. I don't know
The-
what
the-
they are or why, but I haven't found any. No.
yeah, so they're worth finding, because they basically uh if you find the miners' bell bearings, it
Hmm.
means that you can buy the smithing stones from those twin maidens.
Ah,
So if you
okay,
find all of them, it just means that if you
that's
can buy
handy
all of them. Mm.
because finding smithing stones is like really hard work. You literally have, because they're not really signposted, you kind of come across them randomly. So it could be ages before you find enough to upgrade something. But that's a really good tip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's a good, if you take that and my find all the miners' bell bearings, and then find my deep root depth like
Yes.
circuit
And
of
then,
runes.
yeah, because then you'll have enough to pay for them, because you have to pay for them as well. It's the thing. It's deciding whether to spend your runes on upgrades or on leveling up is really hard.
Mm.
Or buying spells, if you're buying spells, because they cost a lot as well.
I found I've been, before I start again, just because I've got access to everything. I'm trying to go to every merchant and just buying everything,
Mm,
and
yeah,
I ended up.
cookbooks are good for crafting as well.
Yes, they're a really good thing to collect.
Yeah.
I found the prisoner iron mask.
Oh yes, it
You
is
get,
one of the best helmets.
it is
I feel. Yeah.
stunningly what the fuck.
So it's basically the only armor that I have that's worth anything, because I have basically rags as the rest of my
Yeah.
as the rest of my outfit, just like this massive helmet and then some rags. I've got
Have,
some Gatefront runes guards, shoes and gloves, and then rags, and then my helmet. It's basically my. You can see it in this one kind of. You've got my yeah, the bottom and the gloves is, and then just rags, and then my prisoner helmet. Yeah.
have you read the description of it?
I think so.
It
I'll have to
says
read it again.
it says iron mask forced on a prisoner convicted of an appalling crime.
Mm, yes, that's what. Yeah, I think I've read actually, and I was like, cool. I've done an appalling crime.
Mm.
Yeah, it's good. But no, I mean, I think it's quite a rare class to pick. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what people like to play as. But I know there's lots of debate about like how magic's overpowered and whatever. But if you want to play as magic, play as magic. Like at the end of the day, someone someone's ideas about different classes shouldn't impact on what you choose, how you choose to play.
Mm.
If you're worried about it at all. But yeah. No, I think the staff's a really cool weapon though, because like there's so much you can do with it. Once you have enough runes to unlock spells, of course, and memory slots and things. But it's really versatile because you can use it on your horse, and you can use it running around and as ranged and close up as well, if you really want. But yeah.
As I said,
Mm.
I only worked out how magic works, like in the last week or so.
Mm.
and working out that you need a staff and you need a
memory slot.
a sacred seal.
And a seal for incantations, yeah. Those are
And
two
they're
different, because
different
they're two
things.
different things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, crazy. I have found the Dragon Church though for any incantations, but I'm severely underleveled in my faith. That's my lowest stat. I think it's currently 6 in a prisoner build. That's like the lowest, and then my arcane is like 9, and all the rest are in double figures at the moment. I've got my figure up to 20. My intelligence is 18, and my mind is about 16, I think, and then dexterity is 15. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment on level 27. So yeah, not too bad, I don't
I
think.
think I'm on 158.
Yeah,
It's mad.
that's cool though. Yeah,
And yeah, so it's very satisfying. There's
yeah.
also for anyone worrying about their build, there is a point at which you can uh respec,
Oh,
as
is
it's
there?
called.
Oh, that would be good.
There's a function to do that, and the only thing I'll say is that man turning into a rune bear, that has something to do with it, and
Interesting.
that you will find out at some point.
Okay, that's cool. Wow. Oh,
It's
many
really
hours of
exhausted,
fun ahead.
yeah.
But yes. But no, I think. Did you have any favourite weapons, Matt? Or
Yeah. So starting off, the halberd has been old and old faithful. That didn't stop being until one of the bosses, when I thought, I'll try out this other thing, and then this weapon called, I won't tell you what it is. There's a weapon for one of the massive bosses that
mm.
allows you to absolutely thrash it really, really
Oh wow.
easily, and it's one of the bigger bosses. So, um, I'll that's as much as I'll say on that. But
Okay.
that was a game changer.
Cool.
And then other than that, for the later part of the game, I switched to a spear that I used that cold thing you mentioned earlier. That was your special thing on
Oh,
your
the
weapon.
impaling thrust.
No, it's the cold one. You said something.
Oh,
It's like a. It was
what,
like an
like
ice
frozen something?
frozen frozen jab or something.
Oh,
Anyway,
okay.
it's a special. You
Mm,
spin really cool, and then you go, and that's awesome.
that's cool.
Yeah. So those are
Mm,
my 3 the things that
mm,
have carried me through the most.
nice. Yeah.
Do you? So is your have you got a special staff, or is it a
It's well, I start off with glint blade stuff, and then I picked up the demi-human queen stuff for beating the demi-human queen in Reaping Peninsula. That was horrible. That
Oh
was a
yeah.
horrible fight. But you get her stuff, which is really cool because it's really weird though. Because in the boss fight, it's a giant staff, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and then you pick it up, and it's like normal size, and you're like, oh, okay. But I need to find. Apparently, I've been reading. I need to find the meteorite stuff because that one's got S scaling. Scaling is another thing I don't understand, but I'm
yeah.
slowly beginning to understand. And S tier is good, so I need to find that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's my
You
task.
can up. I didn't realize you can upgrade staffs and seals as well.
Yes, you can, just like regular weapons, or at least with staffs anyway. But yeah, yes. Mm. Still intrigued about the blacksmith's character. Feel like
Mm.
there's an interesting backstory, but I have yet to uncover it.
I still don't understand what he's about either.
No. But he's one of the coolest characters there. Yeah.
Well, one last thing. Oh shit, I can't remember her
No, it's alright.
name. On the way up the hill to Stormvale Castle, did you find there's a shack with a young woman in it?
Yes, I got jellyfish. Yeah, I got
Mm.
jellyfish from her.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
really worth
Talk to
up with
everybody.
her.
Talk
Yeah.
to everybody and don't stop talking to them until they repeat themselves, because they sometimes give you things. That's another tip.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
hers especially. Just make sure you follow up with her, and you'll get some very, very useful stuff.
Cool. Well, there we go then. I think we've packed that deep dive full of tips
It's
for
turned into
anyone
we've basically
interested.
done a special entire episode.
Yeah, pretty much. We've been talking for like 55 minutes. It's crazy. But no, it's been really good, and I'm sure I have many, many hours left of the game, which I will slowly chip away at, and will update. I'm sure any podcast listeners will get to know my woes fighting various bosses, and I'm glad that you had a fun time playing it, Matt, and well done for finishing,
It is
because I know
probably
they're
the
not
best game
easy.
I've ever played.
Oh wow, there's a
Genuinely.
statement for you.
Mm.
Well, and on that note, I think we will close the
Shall we give
episode.
it a FemPat index?
Let's do
quickly?
that. Yes, I'll bring up our FemPat scale. There we go. How would you rate it in the status quo? Is it closer to feminist utopia or patriarchal regression? It's a difficult one, this one, because it's so stylized.
I think I would move purely from the fact it's quite. It's so weird. It's very hard to like nail it down in terms of a normal thing. I think I'd have to just go and send it probably 60%. Right, if the middle is 0 and feminist utopia is it should be minus, but so we'll go to the left. I think it's probably underneath the T in status quo, purely because it has no. The main character is basically just a blank slate.
Yeah, you can play whoever you want with that. So.
And the only like slightly thing is that there is a psycho mother in it, just like there is in
in Resident Evil Village.
Village, yes.
Yeah.
But there is a gay super boss, which is
Oh
quite
wow,
cool. So
that's
yeah,
interesting.
I think it doesn't move anyway because it's not trying to make any. It has no like general message that's trying to sell. So I think it's just slightly in the direction of feminist utopia because it's not being anti.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like the way a woman prisoner looks compared to a man prisoner is, I mean, women prisoners got boobs out, kind of. But apart from that, like it's not overtly sexual, I would say. I mean, it is. I mean, it's a bit, but like most of the female characters aren't too. They're just more stylized than sexualized, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd agree with you there. I think it's probably around about under the T of the first T of status quo.
Yeah.
Unless anyone has anything else to say, please do let us know in the comments if you're watching this video, or rate us on Spotify and our podcast, and you can listen to us there, or on Apple Podcasts, and you can also find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Although, yes, we'll come back to Instagram at some point. What about? Have I missed anything else, Matt?
No, I think we've hit absolutely everything.
Okay, awesome. Well, that was a really fun chat. Thank you for joining me, and I hope everyone else enjoyed our deep dive into Elden Ring. Let us know your thoughts and share all your favourite discussion points and your own thoughts on Elden Ring in the comments. We'd love to know, and we'll see you again for another episode, probably on a Thursday at 7 p.m. All right, goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much.
Foul Tarnished.